I'd like to welcome you back to the channel. We have with us today a close friend of mine, Isaiah First. If you look at this man, you understand, first of all, I was tempted to introduce him as Batista, but that aside, I got an original joke that he doesn't hear 5 times a week, and that is when you look like that, you go first. So,
Cute.
cute. All right, thanks. It sounds like it was original. So anyways, how you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. I'm surviving this Texas heat. I think it was about 113 degrees yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little wild. It's funny though. I was just in New York about a week and a half ago, and it was in the 80s. I was sweating more up there than I was down here in 110-degree heat.
Yeah, the humidity. Yep.
Yeah.
Crazy. So basically, the thing about you that's unique is that not only are you single, but you're actually somewhat of a motivational person. I don't know the extent of your training and your coaching, but I watch your stuff and I know that it comes from the heart, and sometimes heart is worth more than all the training in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, I started working in recovery based on my past. So I started working in recovery. I owned a line of sober livings. I started helping guys with mental health and addiction. And about a year and a half ago, when I sold my sober living, so my entire life is about helping. By all scientific reasoning, I should be dead today. So I was given a second chance at life, and I don't take that for granted. So you know, I sold the sober livings. I started a life coaching business, so this way I could still help people, but without just the limit to addiction.
Understood. So as it relates today, as you know, this show is about advice and opinions for singles, and you have every right to speak on any topic you want. But I have a feeling that you're going to be one of those guys that's going to talk about something pleasant, optimistic, not, there is a lot of things to talk about, and I'm not trying to minimize that. There is a lot of challenges, but what do you want to talk about? Pick a topic, man.
No. Dealer's choice, man. This is all you. So you come at me, and I'm just going to feed off of you.
Okay. So I guess basically what would be the simplest thing is to ask you, how do you keep such a positive attitude? Is it like fake it till you make it? Are you 100% the man that you seem to be when it comes to your confidence and happiness? Is there a part lacking? Did you start much lower and get to this point? I can throw 10 more at you if you want, or you can start. Yeah.
Good question. I think that there's always going to be a part of everybody that has a huge ego because they have a low self-esteem, and you walk around because you don't necessarily want to show your weaknesses. And as a man, we're wired to not show our vulnerability because vulnerability is for the weak. Am I always positive all the time? Absolutely not. Especially in society that we live in right now, it's very hard to look around. I feel like we're living in a time where it's a very watered down, weak society where people want to bitch about problems, but they don't actually want a solution, because if you have a solution, you can't bitch about the problem. And people would rather point blame as opposed to looking inward and actually doing the work. So am I always positive? No, but at the end of the day, I like to see the light in everything. I think that due to my past, I created a conception and a relationship with God based on the worst moments of my life. And I do understand that all the bad comes with some good, and you might not understand it in the moment, but I'm such a prideful, stubborn person that I had to go through what I went through in order to become the person I am today, because people don't like change and they don't like accountability. And when you're forced into a very uncomfortable, painful situation, you're forced to change. And I think that we all grow from the bad times. We don't grow from the good times. The good times, that just kind of keeps us content.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I interview people that, not even within the singles world, but just within life. I interviewed a guy, for example, a famous actor who stutters. And he said, if not for his stuttering, he wouldn't be so successful.
Yeah. What's so interesting about stuttering? I was watching this. Apparently, this is not what speech therapists teach you. So a stutter is a nervous tick in your brain. So if you have a stutter and somebody asks you a question, I've heard that if you will answer the question 3 times in your head before you say it, you'll never stutter.
Interesting. So I guess I should maybe backtrack a little on my question. When I was asking you about these challenges you go through, I meant it within the context of being alone. The irony being that when we first became friends, I believe at that point you were married, you were still with your wife, and for your challenges and tragedies hit, and I was single. And I don't know how I came across, but I know it's a terribly painful, lonely experience. I had a friend who he didn't really have many relationships. And I always thought that he was more of a man. Guys are like watch too many movies and they think like James Bond, like that's what makes you the man, Brad Pitt. I think it's when you stand alone, that's when you're the freaking man. You can get
Yeah.
all the gorgeous women in the world you want, but it kind of like smells of needy if you can't be happy on your own.
Absolutely. I think that a lot of people, they jump in and out of relationships and they can never find the one because ultimately they're looking for happiness in somebody else. And if you're able to kind of take the time and really find yourself and you become the person that you want to be, not only when you get into a relationship, you can show up the way that you need to show up, but when they're being toxic, you can set a standard and that you're not going to tolerate any less. I mean, I think that, the point of a man, I mean, I truly believe that women that want equal rights are underachievers. The man's the head of the house, but the woman's the neck. She decides where the head goes. And if the guy is in a healthy place, he's able to challenge the person that he's with without putting her down. And I think that one of the biggest issues in relationships these days is that instead of building each other up as a team, there's a competition. And if you're competing with the person that you love, then it's really just not. You're already starting off on a bad dynamic.
Right.
I mean, if you absolutely there's a certain question that saved me a lot of issues in relationships that I've been in, and I think that men tend to think a little bit more logical. Women tend to be a little bit more emotional. Now, that doesn't mean that men can't be emotional. Women can't be logical. It's just their normal go-to. And and one question, when I would be arguing with a partner that I would be with, that really saved me a lot of time was, okay, well, I would ask myself first, do I want to be right or do I want to make it work? Because at the end of the day, it's like, what's the point in trying to be right? Because if I end up winning an argument with the person that I'm with and they feel like shit, and this is the person that I love, what am I actually winning?
Right.
So, but, I think that everybody needs to find their place in the relationship. I was actually watching this very interesting video the other day that, this rabbi said that, the man is the leader. Now, that doesn't come from a dominant place. The man is the leader. His position is to provide and protect his family. That's our responsibility in the world. And when he looks at a woman, he says, he's like, I want to basically take care of this woman for the rest of my life. Now, the woman, seeing the man as his leader, this is not a sexist, submissive type of thing. It's more of like, I trust this man that I'm going to basically let him lead me, and I'm going to follow him, knowing that I trust and love him enough that he's going to have my best interest in mind, and that he's going to take me where we need to go. But unfortunately, a lot of times, people definitely bring in past trauma into relationships, and they bring in their own bullshit, and instead of trying to make it work, they just want to be right. And if you're just trying to be right, then, you tend to always going to be miserable and relationships are not going to work. I have to figure out, okay, what is my triggers? What are my insecurities? What are my fears? What is the baggage that I'm bringing in? And the same thing with my partner. I need to figure out exactly what's triggering my partner and what sets her off. And, when you kind of figure out where it's like, they say that every relationship is 50-50. That's absolute bullshit. It can never be 50-50. All right.
Right.
At the end of the day, there can never be less than 100% of a relationship. So, sometimes I'll be exhausted from work and I'm dealing with a lot of stuff. And I come back home and I'm only 20%. My partner needs to see that I'm exhausted and I'm in a little bit of a dark place because I'm overwhelmed. So, you know what? I love you enough that I'm going to kick it into the 80% today, and vice versa. Sometimes, the female, she's going to be a little bit drained. Okay, I see that this is where you're at. So I'm going to kick it in. I'm going to give a little extra, because we can never come under 100%, no matter what.
100%. And when you hear people talk that way, like, oh, he owes me that, or she's not doing that, it's like, hold on, at what moment and what day? Like, this is a fluid scenario. So I totally get it. I hear everything you're saying. I'm just keeping track in my mind of catching up. A couple of minutes ago, you mentioned something that triggered this concept I heard, that a woman wants a man that stands for anything. It doesn't matter what it is, but he's got to stand for something. And
Yeah.
I think that ties into what you were saying. It's very difficult in our day and age, as you're describing, to try to define the gender roles within these challenges of having relationships when half the world seems like they're busting out of a nut ward. You know? The other thing is that you didn't mention something, which I think as soon as I mention it, you're going to agree 100%. A lot of times I ask somebody, where does their strength come from? Does it come from a good family backing or this or that? And the thing that attracted me to you when we first became friends was that something became apparent very, very quickly. And that was that just watching your Facebook posts and your social media, your friends are your family. You have this very, very small group of friends that you guys almost have like your own language. You're saying things within other people think they're hearing, but I'm smart enough to know I'm not hearing the whole thing.
Yeah.
But that's important because you can be the toughest mother effer in the world. You can be everything, but you need to find your support. And I think that's a key thing with you because of my upbringing and my background is that when I look at a guy like you and I'm like, okay, I have no excuses. If these friends aren't working, they're not friends. Find other friends, but find your support system. You got to do all these things that you said, but don't think you got to do it alone. You still need to find your love somewhere.
Absolutely. No, I mean, you could have 100 people around you and feel beyond alone. You know, it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. And I think that also, like you were saying before, you know, like we live in a society where everybody's pretty much just a nut job. You know, everybody's dealing with mental unstable, mental instability, and you know, like their own insecurities and their own fears, and you know, and it definitely drags onto other people. Like people, you could really tell just based on energy, like how you react and how you bond with a person. Like there are certain people that I hang out with that when I'm done, I'm just exhausted. They're like emotional vampires. And then there are other people, it's like when I'm talking, it could be 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. And when I'm done, I'm energetic because like we're both contributing positive energy. And, you know, I was thinking about this a couple of months ago. I was driving in my car and I probably cut more people out of my life in the last 2 years than I ever have. And at a certain point, I sat back and I really tried to reflect. I'm like, is there something wrong with me? You know, I'm always trying to see what my part is in everything. Is there something wrong with me that basically these relationships are just not working? And I did a little bit of digging. I did a little bit of work around that. And I realized, no, you know, the path of enlightenment is a very, very lonely road. You know, when you're healing and you're really doing a lot of soul searching and a lot of work, you become very hypersensitive to bad energy around you. And, you know, and you get to the point where it's just like, I don't need to be around negative people all the time. You know, I don't need to be around people just to fill a void because I'm filling my own void. And when you're doing a lot of work, you have a lot more to protect, you know, and you don't want to just let anybody into your circle. And you're right, you know, like as I get older, my circle gets very, very small, and I'm happy with that. You know, I don't need a lot of people. I don't need to be going out. I have a couple of people that I depend on. I have a lot of acquaintances, but at the end of the day, I don't want to be around. And that's probably one of the biggest changes that's happened for me in my life because I've always wanted to have the biggest group of friends growing up. I want everybody to like me, and I want to be the popular kid. And I'm at a point right now where it's like I love who I love, and you know, as far as like the people that have a negative mindset, these are people that I get to work with on a professional level, but on a personal level, it's like no, I'm very, very picky about who I allow into my family, as you were saying, and I like it that way. You know, as you get older, you need to protect your inner peace, and you need to protect your energy.
Yeah, we were talking about this emotional vampires and having the right circles and if for every, let's say 30 friends you give up, somebody pops into your life that has a value of 60, all this stuff. It's, I was telling you how I made a conscious decision at one point that I'm going to consider a scenario before I go into it. And I'm not going to go into it unless I know whether it's a party or a get together or whatever. I'm not going to go into it unless I know for sure I'm going to have the same mojo I had when I walked in. But if there's even a doubt that when I go into that situation, I'm going to feel bad about myself, well, like I would be stupid. And I was stupid for many years. You know, there's a lot of stupidity where you're trying to run with a crowd and, you know, it's just another type of relationship. You got to make the right ones. So, yeah.
I mean, I think that when it comes to relationships, whether it's friendships, whether it's intimate relationships, unfortunately, people are so uncomfortable on their own that they need somebody else, that they settle just to not be alone, because, even if it's a toxic relationship, a lot of people, they would rather be angry but not feel lonely than lonely and not angry. And,
but you could have both is the key. You could not feel alone if you have the right friends while still waiting for the right woman.
Well, even more so when you're happy with the person that you are, you could also not feel alone when you're by yourself, and the healthiest relationship is that one is like, I'm perfectly fine with or without you. You're perfectly fine with or without me. When we get together, I don't need you. I choose to spend time with you because this is what I want. I enjoy spending time with you. The second that you're in a relationship, it's like, I need you. No, I don't need you. And if I need you, that's very unhealthy. And that's very codependent. And, I did a motivational video about this, and this branches out to a lot more than just intimate relationships. This is just in general, that we all want to be loved and accepted and respected, and we compromise our integrity just to be liked, because as long as you're okay with me, then it feels better than me being okay, or the fact that I'm not okay with myself. But the issue is that need for validation, it gets so toxic to the point where I look around and I notice I'm in a situation where I don't even like you, but I want you to like me. And what I've noticed through a lot of the work that I've had to done is that when I start to push through the fear and the doubts and the insecurity, and I really, really don't take the easy road out, and I start to mold myself into the person that I love to be, the more I love myself, the less I give a shit if you like me or not. And people don't necessarily like that. It's just like when you're not buying anything, you're not selling anything, they don't like that, because they can't even hook you with their negativity. There's only
the unhealthy people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's negative people are always going to try to hook you, that misery loves company. And,
Yes.
And you don't even need to respond. You can't change the way that people talk, the way that they behave, the way that they think, but you could change your reaction to it, and a lot of people, they go nuts when it's just like they're trying to hook you, but you're not having it. I believe that there's only one difference between genius and stupid, and that's limitations. A stupid person is going to keep going and going and going and going. It's just like, hey, like nothing's happening here, but we're going to keep on going and going because I need to be right. Going back to what we were talking about before, whether it's a conversation, whether it's a debate, or whatever it is, or whether it's just some Joe Schmo on the street that you're talking to, like I need to be right. But at a certain time, it's like, no, I got so much energy that I need to protect it. I could be, focusing on other things where it's just like, I'm going to have limitations. Hey, if this is not working, we're good. Hey, I wish you well, but we're good. We don't even have to have this conversation.
Cut it short and put your energy into something that you
100%
are more suited for.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Isaiah, I'm happy to have you on here. I appreciate it. Before we go, because we could talk for hours.
Absolutely.
I want to shout out, as they say, I want people to, you said you don't want to use my platform to advertise your stuff. You're doing this as a friend, but let's be honest. I mean, if it helps people and it motivates them, let's put it out there. I'm going to put it in the description. And if you want to explain which social medias and what they can find, please.
I think that as of right now, I think that Instagram, I just started up a page a couple of months ago. So I have an Instagram page. You'll see a lot of my motivational videos. You'll be able to contact me and, just try to pay it forward, man. If I could help somebody, that's what I'm here for. Everything in life is about helping people. And if you're not capable of helping, you at least try not to harm them. And I think that in my reality, if I'm not helping people, I'm harming people, or if I'm harming myself. So it's always about giving back.
I agree with you. We'll put your Instagram link in the description below.
Okay. I appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, man. And of course, as usual, everybody should like, subscribe, and especially on videos like this, comments. Hopefully Isaiah will be keeping an eye on the comments. I always keep an eye on the comments, and we want dialogue. I mean, we're not just here talking. This is an all-inclusive conversation. Thanks again, Isaiah.
All right. Thank you so much, man. Great talking.